This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 780 of Horse Tip Daily. A different horse tip, a different equine topic, a different equestrian expert every day. Horse Tip Daily brings the world of equine knowledge to you, one day at a time. Today's tip is brought to you by EquestrianCollections.com. Hi, Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. Today's tip is from the Dressage Radio Show. Jennifer Oliver joins Dressage Radio co-hosts Reese Koeffler-Stanfield and Philip Parks for an interesting discussion about massage for young horses. And we'll get right to our tip after this message from Equestrian Collections.
Hi, Glenn here from the Horse Radio Network, and I am with Debbie from Equestrian Collections with Equestrian Collections Product of the Week.
Hi, Glenn. You know what? It's time again to be thinking about summer shows. And how are we going to deal with the heat? Well, you know what? Ariat has come out with a new show shirt called the Ariat Sun Stopper. It's a quarter zip. If you have ever worn an Ariat show shirt, you know that that has got to be the most comfortable shirt on the market for show shirts. It's not that cotton stuff. It's a material that is very soft. It looks fantastic. Easy to keep up. This year they've come up with something new. It's the inside of the arms is a net material, so that it's very cool and lets the air through. Where the top of the arms is the denser material to keep the sun off your arm, so that you can ride and be cool. This is great for trail riding. This is great for shows. I can't think of a single place you would ride in the summer that this wouldn't be good for. That does come in long sleeves. It's a knit material. It's got the collar for the stock tie loop. It's got everything that you need, including sun protection for show riding and for just regular riding in the summer. It comes in white, and we have all of those sizes in stock and ready to ship. It also comes in pink and in navy. They call it fuchsia, but it's really a fuchsia pink and in navy. So this is sort of, and on the pink and the navy one, it's the inside where the mesh is a white color. So this is hearkening back to some of the old-timey Ariat-looking shirts that we all loved, and I think this is going to be a huge success. And I look forward to wearing mine as soon as it gets a little bit warmer.
That's the Ariat Sunstopper quarter zip top. You can find it by going to EquestrianCollections.com and just search for Sunstopper, and it's sure to come up.
Well, it is a pleasure of mine today to introduce Jennifer Oliver. She has been a part of our Maple Crest Farm team for many, many years now, I think 6 or 7 years. And she is a fabulous massage therapist. And I've been wanting to have her on the show. So, Jen, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Reese. It's a pleasure to get on and talk to you today.
So, Jen, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'd love to go into what massage is and how it works and how it can benefit dressage horses. How does that sound?
Oh, sounds great. Well, I've had my business now for 6 years, all of which I worked for Maple Crest Farm, along with many other farms throughout Kentucky. I got certified in equine massage through a program called Equisage, based in Round Hill, Virginia, and I started my business in 2004. I have slowly grown throughout the years, and now I do about 55 massages a month in the Lexington area, and I also travel to a few big shows all over the country and work, as well as go down to Florida. And massage works so great for any sport horse because it keeps them free of tension and moving fluidly. It's so important in dressage especially. And typically whenever a horse gets a trigger point that causes tension in them, it can really throw off their whole body. So it's really important to keep your sport horses nice and loose and free of any tension to make sure they're happy and going and doing well for whatever you want them to do.
Well, that sounds pretty good. Jen, can you tell us a little bit how you got into massage and a little bit about the program for anybody that would be interested? You know, why did it draw you to it?
Well, I've always had a great passion for animals and horses in particular, and then I've always had a special knack for massage. I played volleyball all through high school and college, and I always was one to massage, my teammates when they had sore shoulders, and so I found out at a pretty young age that that's what I wanted to do for a living. But it wasn't until I came to Kentucky that I found out that I actually could massage horses, which is kind of combining like the two best worlds into one thing. And it's just so wonderful getting to massage the horses because they really respond to it, and they're so grateful and so thankful when you make them feel good. And from schooling, I went through a program called Equisage in Round Hill, Virginia, and they have a study program there where you can get certified. And then there are a couple places in Kentucky where if you want to go through a vet tech program, you can become a massage therapist as well.
So Jen, you just work wonders on all of our horses, truly. I mean, we're as successful because of you, really. And everybody knows I talk about Denali and how perfect he is. But you've actually done some great things with him because he's had some issues really. Well, you were with us when he was born. You were there the day he was born. And one of the things, we've had some issues with him as he's grown, and he's turning 5 this year. As he's grown in some really awkward ways. Can you tell people how massage has really helped him in our development?
Oh, of course. Well, and some young horses do a little bit better than others when they get into training. But when they go into that training process, there's really a big change in how they're using their bodies, how their muscles are working, how all of a sudden they have a saddle on every day. And it can be really rough for some horses. And Denali in particular, he really had a hard time adjusting to some of those changes. And when you're really teaching these new things to these young horses, you want it to be as positive as possible so they get as much out of every training session and as much out of, everything you're teaching them. So massage for Denali has really helped to relieve some of that initial soreness so that he can really move forward at a faster pace and really reach his potential because he's just such a wonderful horse. So he really is going to, it's really helping him move through the levels quicker, learn things quicker, and then they also have a very positive outlook on his training.
Yeah, and we had, some big issues with him, and we continue to still monitor and work with them. But can you explain, it came to me as girthiness. He tries to bite when you put his girth on, but that wasn't really his problem, was it?
No. He has a tendency to get a little bit tight in his pecs, and a lot of young horses do this because they want to pull themselves with their front legs instead of engaging in their hind end when they're moving. And that was from where he would get that grumpiness from, and just through some normal massage techniques, and really throughout his whole body, he would get a little bit tense behind too. We helped to relieve some of that ouchiness and that grumpiness by just releasing some of those knots in his pecs, which are kind of where the girth kind of goes. So he was justifiably grumpy, but once we taught him that it wasn't so bad and that I could make him feel better, he took to it a lot better.
Yeah, he's been tremendously better, but still something we work on. Jen, what are some other? I mean, that was something that it could have been interpreted that he was just grumpy about his girth, and we really sort of, you and I had to investigate sort of why that was happening. Are there any other things like that, the sort of the girthiness, or any other things that can be helped with massage?
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. Anytime a horse, is turning a little bit stiff to one side. Normally that comes from the trapezius muscle on the opposite side being tight, or the brachiocephalic muscle that kind of runs down the lower part of their neck can get tight. And those can cause major turning issues, which all are alleviated great from massage. Sometimes if they're weird about their canter leads, that can be also caused from the brachiocephalic muscle acting up. A lot of hind end stuff can happen if they get tension around their SI joints, which a lot of them often do. So pretty much if you find your horse doing anything like stiff or not really fluid, that's the time where you would maybe want to investigate with equine massage. And then sometimes girthiness also can actually come from the latissimus dorsi muscle, which runs up by their withers and their rhomboids. And when those get sore, so it's, when you put the girth on, it's not actually the girth that's bothering them. It's when you tighten it and the saddle presses down at their withers. That can also be a sign of girthiness, and a lot of times massage will alleviate that. And also the thing about massage is normally when I work on a horse, I can tell if your saddle is not fitting properly, maybe refer you to a good saddle fitter.
Now, Jen, I'm interested in a little bit the theory behind behind massage. What are you doing when you're manipulating the muscles? I mean, I'm sure it's more than just petting the horse, right? So, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, the physiology of it is when, let's say, you have a tension point. Well, what's happening there is when the muscle tenses up due to work or being goofy out in the field or, a number of things, what's happening is that there's a really large lack of blood and nutritional flow to that area. And so it's really hard for them to feed that out themselves. What I do is when I go in and find a knot like that, I'll work through it. And as I massage it, and there are plenty of techniques, that I have in my arsenal to get rid of these things. But typically, like a lot of back and forth motion, deep pressure, that will loosen up the muscle, allow the blood and nutrition to flow into it, and then thereby alleviating the trigger point. And so, it just works great. And even for the muscles that are getting blood flow, you are increasing throughout the entire body and balancing the entire body. So it's all one big unit, instead of just like, oh, this part's working perfectly, but, I'm sore here and I'm sore there. So this works out really well.
So, Jen, how often do you recommend the people have massages with their horses, for their horses?
I would say it kind of depends on their workload. Normally, I like to keep all of my horses on at least a once-a-month schedule. And normally, most of my clients do that throughout the year. And what that does is it keeps their body balanced and keeps, everything good so that way you don't have to wait for something bad to happen to have me out. I just, it's a very preventative measure. It keeps horses strong all through the winter. They come out of the winter stronger. They're ready for training right away. You don't have to worry if they're sore during training. And then a lot of times during show season, if they have a lot of shows all in like 1 month, then you'll boost it up maybe to before every show or twice a month. It can really vary from horse to horse.
Now, in your history of working with massage, are there any good stories that you can tell us about, horses that made a great turnaround or something from your experience?
Oh, yeah. I've probably dozens, but one of my favorite stories actually just happened a couple of months ago. I was working on a horse, and I went out, and she's like, oh, by the way, his tail doesn't work. And I was like, what? His tail doesn't work? She was like, yeah, he did something to it in August, and this was like 4 months after he had injured it. And he said, I don't know what happened, but one day it just stopped working, and I had vets out and chiropractors out, and they couldn't tell me what was wrong with it or what happened to it. They think he must have hit it against something. And I was like, oh, okay. So I go back there and start kind of looking at it, and I start massaging it. And she said he can't lift it to poop, and he can't swat flies or anything. It drives him crazy. And it probably drove her crazy, too, having to clean his tail every day. Well, so I'm massaging him, and I'm like, well, he's really tight back here. I'm not sure that I'll be able to help, but let's see what we can do. By the end of the session, he was lifting his tail to poop, and ever since it's worked. So I thought that was a pretty neat thing for her.
That's a pretty quick response. Do you normally see that, or by the end of a session for the thing to change so much?
Right. Well, normally you can see a physical difference in them right after a session if they're really tight. I've never come across anything that extreme, not being able to use your tail at all, to go from that to, using it. And he was really tight there. I almost think that he forgot that he could use it. You know, like maybe he had an injury. He had an injury or something, and by when I saw him, his injury was healed, but he was so used to just having it locked in there. I kind of taught him that, hey, it's fixed now, you're fine, and it worked right away. So couldn't have been happier about that situation.
Yeah, wonderful.
That's awesome. Well, Jen works wonders at our barn too. Really, it's amazing. And certainly Denali has been sort of the biggest challenge that we've had. But all the horses here get massaged on, like she said, on a rotating schedule, depending on what their needs are and how much they're working and travel schedule. So Jen is a huge part of our team here at Maple Crest. And Jen, we thank you for all that you do for us. And Jen, if people want to find you on the internet and get some more information about massage, how can they find you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I have my Facebook account, which is just Jennifer Oliver. There's a picture of me stretching a horse on the front page. And then anyone's more than welcome to call me. My number is 859-559-1315 for questions or anything like that.
And that's a wrap. If you enjoyed Reese and Phillip chatting about all things dressage, you can tune in every week at dressageradio.com. You can also find lots more tips regarding every topic imaginable, ranging from barn care to websites for horse people on horsetipdaily.com. Just go to the homepage and look for the topics drop-down menu on the left. Don't forget to support our sponsors here on Horse Tip Daily because they make these podcasts possible. Today's podcast has been brought to you through the support of EquestrianCollections.com. Please stop by the Horse Tip Daily Facebook page and let us know what you think of the tips you hear on the show. It's also a great place to tell us about topics you'd like to hear us cover on the show. You can subscribe to all the great shows on the Horse Radio Network through iTunes or Zune and get your horse podcasts automatically downloaded to your iPod, Zune, or MP3 player. You can also listen to the shows right on Facebook. The player's right there every day. I'll be back again tomorrow with another new expert and a different horse tip. Until then, go ride your horse! The Horse Radio Network and the Horse Radio Network hosts are not responsible for statements of guests or their opinions. Use your own judgment when listening to the tips provided by the experts on Horse Tip Daily.